Or did you get that video? Sweet.
1935, the Lions win the NFL championship. The Detroit Tigers take the World Series. The Red Wings bring home Lord Stanley's Cup. Joe Louis begins his rise to world domination. This transforms the Motor City into Detroit, City of Champions.
The champions abound. There are just wall to wall, door to door. Champions. You can't swing a dead cat in the city. That might actually even be a competition. Swing a dead cats. And somebody from Detroit probably won it.
They said there was carrier pigeon championship too, but we didn't count them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. they said it in the newspaper. He's like, he said ever since we started counting these all up, he's like, we've had people coming out of the woodwork saying they've got all kinds of crazy champions. Yeah. And he said one of them was a carrier pigeon.
But did you never found anything further on it?
The guy said, yeah, he mentions it in there. I've got the text somewhere in there. He says we had a carrier. There's these guys that claim.
Well, you didn't find anything beyond that one mention.
No, but he was like, they had letters to the Detroit Times saying this guy, Mr. Such and Such has the carrier pigeon championship.
Amendment to the show 34. Here we go. We got to add another star to the.
Yeah, no, he didn't count it in, so we're not going to either. But
another star in the constellation of the City of Champions story.
Yeah, galaxy of stars. Yeah.
But no, it's talking about swinging a dead cat or swinging some cat guts. We're swinging some rackets,
which I think are made of. The netting is made of some kind of gun,
some of the original tennis rackets were
they really
fastened through?
Cat gut?
Yep.
Are you serious?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Hopefully they just found the cats. They have like an industry of butchering cats for tennis rackets.
Probably
it seems like a bit barbarous.
That whole Rawlings crew.
They just
and the Spalding.
I don't know. I have to fact check that. I'm sitting there going, hey.
I'm just making crap up.
Like, hey,
you're the facts guy.
No, I don't.
I just say ridiculous crap.
Yeah, I don't think they were because I think there'd be some outrage by some humanitarian groups.
But swinging a dead cat, swinging the rackets. So that's where we're at today on Detroit City of Champions. The story. I'm Jamie Flanagan,
Charles Avison,
and thanks for joining us. We appreciate you being here. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, all those things. It helps. And if you're just kind of following along with the party, because we're up to like 96. I think this is.
What is I saying? What is it 96?
It is 90. It's 96.
Are you sure about that, Jamie?
Yeah, totally.
I've got
your
95.
thing says 95, but
how am I one behind?
Regardless, I don't know. No, it could be 95.
No, it's 95 because the last one saying was 94.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, we did Champions Day visual tour. Yeah, 94.
All right. But thank you for being with us as we move through this story, the 90 plus episodes that we've done, and it's just been a riot, and we're just chipping our way through the champions. We're moved into the other champions. Got past some of the big. Major teams that people are really well known with, and the Tigers, the Lions, and the Red Wings. Garwood, even in my day, I got a couple years on you, but Garwood name just resounds in Detroit. Walter Hagen. I did not know Walter Hagen was so tied to Michigan and to Detroit until the Champions story, but his name is very well renowned. And Joe Louis, obviously.
Well, what brought it all out for me was the City of Champions newspaper.
Right.
Like when you see the spectrum, with one glance at that newspaper, you see the broad spectrum of championships, and they're all on that newspaper, and you're just like, you see for yourself, like the girl, in this case, we're gonna be talking about Walter Kramer, the badminton champion, and also Constance O'Donovan and Esther Politzer, who were the women's doubles tennis champions. And so, they're standing there, they're in the newspaper on that City of Champions newspaper, and they're holding rackets. So they kind of are, with Clark Haskins, he's holding the weights, and of course the Tigers, Lions, Red Wings, they're standing there with their jerseys on.
But as we move into the story, we're getting closer. We're getting a further away from well-known people. I mean, we've had Eddie Tolan, who's fairly well known.
Yeah.
But I mean, you go mention people. There's things named him around the city And
Yeah.
it's like, what?
And the
Who?
further we get into the, the further down we get with all these champions, the,
Right.
the less known they will be.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, like when, I had a chance,
It's
like when I was
still
actually going through the newspapers at the time,
champions.
these were people that were featured in their newspapers with stories and, to more or less, some had more, sort of information about them than others. And, but nonetheless, they're part of the story. And the ones we're talking about today, again, Walter Kramer, and then Constance Donovan, Esther Politzer. So these are counted as two different championships. The number 11 and not number 11. Where this is on top of the Tigers, Lions, Red Wings to be number 14 and number 15.
Right.
So I have a number 11 in the book because these are like the other champions. But so anyways, 14 and 15.
Yeah.
So the women's doubles tennis champions were counted as one championship for the two ladies.
Okay.
And
that makes up for the whole shenanigans about 5 for the cops.
I thought we went through shenanigans. We proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that it was no shenanigans.
It wasn't shenanigans. Yeah. I know.
So anyways, they
telling yourself that.
No, that's what they said. I'm going with what they said.
I know.
So anyway, so it's
give me a little white out.
It would be different if these two women if both of these two women, if we counted these as two championships because they won the National Public Courts Women's Doubles Tennis Championship.
Right. So that's one championship.
That's one because they won. Yeah, it was a doubles as an item. So that's
now if they went on because that was.
So if I counted them each as a championship, then that would be counterfeiting. That would be stretching it.
Now if they had additionally won an individual championship,
then it would be a different one. Yeah,
sure. But yeah. So they as a team won. It was like the Tigers. They were a team.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
Won the World Series, and that's one.
And the Detroit Police pistol shooting team. They won the team game. They won the team championship, and then the individuals won pistol shooting. Those were national championships, and each of them in their own right.
I just like busting your chops.
Well, you can bust them all you want, but just keep getting wrecked as a result.
I need to keep you honest.
Just get ready for the counter attack bludgeon, which is with a sledgehammer. So
as you whack me with a racket here,
I'm having fun bludgeoning. I don't know if we should go on into the topic more because I'm having so much fun beating you with this stick.
Who's up first? Is it Walter? Is the first one we want to talk about?
Yeah, why not? That's what we have.
So what do we know about Walter? Because it's like the information gets a little thinner with.
So I don't have a ton of information about his early life. I mean, really, I don't have any information about his early life. But we're basically talking about what he did at this point. And of course, anybody that finds any background information is welcome to, submit it, contribute it. But so he is a badminton champion of 1935. And so in 1935, he was ranked the number 1 badminton player in the country after winning a tournament at the New England Championships.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's kind of interesting is that shortly thereafter, in 1937 was the actual legitimate first national badminton championship title.
All right.
Like they're actually founded a badminton championship, like if you for instance, if you look up the website, like the USA National Badminton Championships, if you look it up, the actual website, right? You go to that, and then it has the list of every single championship winners. And what you will find is the very first 2 championships won were by Walter Kramer in 1937 and 38. So he won. So he is listed there on their website as the first badminton champion, as according to official records. But as far as but before that specific, it's almost like having the Super Bowl, you know what I mean? Whereas the Lions have never won a Super Bowl, yes, but they won the NFL championship prior to that, right? They won the 1935 championship. So it's kind of like this. There was no that specific badminton national championship trophy did not exist in 1935. But what did exist was the ranking system,
right? And
he was ranked number 1 in 1935 after having won the most prestigious tournament of that time, which was the New England Championship. So
now badminton had been around in the United States for a little while. Originally, coming from ScholarWorks from a California, Cal State. .edu, and they're talking about it's the history of badminton. 1878 is when badminton was first developed here in the United States. unofficially formed. The first badminton club wasn't formed until 39.
Huh.
But badminton as a sport itself existed as far back as 1878.
Jeez, I didn't even know that. That's awesome.
Badminton's forerunner, the game of shuttlecock, was played early in America, back in 1873, as early as that. And so, yeah, so it goes way back. But then finally, they had a ranking system by 35.
Yeah, well, so you would imagine if it goes back to, you say 1878.
Yep.
So if this is 60 years worth of time that people are playing the game, it seems logical to me that by 35 they would have a structure in place to determine, the rankings of people across the country.
Right.
And so, that's what he was in 35. And then when they actually had like a formulaic, like a championship trophy and all this, that he would actually, it's awesome that he was the first official winner of that championship in 36. So what it does, it lends even more credence to his success in 35. It's only natural that he would, if he's that dominant in 35, that dominance would extend an extra couple of years into the actual first championship trophy itself.
So
that's
it
where
was,
he was.
The American Badminton Association was founded in 1935. Badminton itself was blowing up in the 1930s, and it provided a united front for the game. 2 years after its founding, the first actual championship, the United States Championships, were held, and Bert Barkoff, Hamilton Law, Zoe Smith, and Walter Kramer were the first United States champions.
Yeah,
when they actually had the championships, but he was ranked number 1 in 35.
Yeah, and that's even shown on the City of Champions newspaper. He's a featured guy on that newspaper.
Right on.
And so the picture, the very the first picture we have, I have that Champions Day newspaper.
I'm pecking around other crap.
It's all good. We actually have it isolated on that first slide with him.
Yeah,
with his picture on there.
Walter, there he is.
Yep. So that picture on the left there
is a handsome chap.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. That is like an isolated image off of that City of Champions newspaper showing him, and they say right at the bottom, Walter Kramer, rated number 1 badminton player in the United States.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much all we have him is what kind of what he did.
Mm-hmm.
Not too much of a backstory, but
he was declared champion by the U.S. National Championship,
and he's also in the Badminton Hall of Fame too.
Oh, it's the Badminton Hall. There's the Badminton Hall of Fame. Of course there is. Why is it? If there's an American Badminton Association,
yes, there is.
There would be.
And it's a naturally. I think he had to be one of the first inductees. So hell yeah, he is. He's a Hall of Famer, man. We got Hall of Famers up and down the list here.
I like it. So
these aren't just squares, man. These are legit stars.
So you were talking about a video, a little bit of
when I was doing a little bit of a sort of a cursory check this afternoon to see some of the stuff that's on the internet about him. There's a YouTube video. It's a little 30-second clip.
I'm gonna try to pull that up, and we'll
YouTube's crazy. I can't believe there's a video. Walter Kramer, he's beating some guy for some championship. He's like winning a championship in Toronto against some guy.
That's
he's
just
like
nutty.
Yeah, and you could see he's pretty good. He's better than I am. He probably gets smoked by Walter Kramer, man.
All right, so I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna share that window, and I'm gonna share that, and it's gonna be underneath the. It's gonna be underneath that. Hang on. Let me get rid of Walter's photo on there. If you're if you're listening to the podcast, you don't get to see all the shenanigans, but there's a cool little
Tell them where
video.
They can find it. It's, just look up Walter Kramer.
Mm-hmm.
I got it on my phone. I can tell you where to look it up at.
The world great.
Jack Purcell versus Walter Kramer.
Yeah, there it is.
Champion professional badminton player Jack Purcell of.
That's it, man.
Damn, there he is. There he is right there. That kid is
19-year-old Detroit sensation who defeated Purcell in the first game the champion has lost in 3 years.
Yeah. So and this is a little bit before.
There he
35.
is in the right. Yeah.
Oh, what a youngster!
He's a youngster, dude. Yeah.
That was it.
He said it's the first, like that. Jack Purcell was the best badminton player in the world, and he's the first game he's lost in 3 years was against Walter Kramer.
Yeah.
So Walter Kramer's good, man. Kid looked like he could hit. I bet he's pretty good at ping pong too.
Yep. That's a different story.
Yeah.
That went on to something else. All right, that's cool. He's a handsome.
You can look it up.
Handsome lad.
If you look at, it's probably the only video on YouTube. If you look up Walter Kramer versus Jack Purcell,
Yeah,
it's probably the only video on YouTube. So our thanks to, I'm not sure. Can you see who loaded it up? What's this guy's name?
Mina Bird.
What is it? Mina Bird?
Mina Bird.
Oh, okay, sweet.
Thank you, Mina.
Yeah. So yeah, that's an obscure clip there. That YouTube's got everything. So
yeah, unbelievable.
So yeah, so that's Walter Kramer. We've got the badminton championship, right?
Yeah.
And so now we're moving on to Constance O'Donovan and Esther Politzer.
Okay.
So I have a little bit more information on at least on Esther Politzer, because her daughter emailed me some time ago to tell me a little information about her.
Well, there's a picture of Walter and Constance together.
Yeah, so Constance. Yeah, so that's what's cool is that Constance O'Donovan was good at badminton too. So she won some kind of a championship with him at the same time.
Okay.
So she's good at badminton and tennis.
All right.
So that's what's kind of a cool picture, is that she's with Walter Kramer.
Because I noticed there was a little overlap there.
Yeah.
That's
a great shot. I know. I'm glad. I almost forgot why I had that slide. Yeah, that's look at him. He's got a huge trophy on one picture. And then he's a great shot with him and Constance O'Donovan.
Boy, they look just like little Grosse Pointe kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's her posing with Kramer. So she was good. She was good at. So she was a little star in her own right, and she's rolling with Kramer for these championships and that.
But you were talking about the telegram, and I think we mentioned it last show.
Yeah.
That you'd received this from the family.
Yeah, her daughter. And so it kind of, let's start with the story first. Sure, and we'll show that. So Constance, the way I understand the story is that Constance O'Donovan, as you can see there, she's with Walter Kramer winning this like badminton championship. So she was kind of like the little like local star of whether it was badminton or tennis, like she was already like the sort of like little star, like of the area. And so as the story goes, and it was told to me by Esther Politzer's daughter. Her name is Jill Politzer Krach, Krach, or Croc. So anyways, so Jill, her daughter, told me the story that they call her, I believe they call her Connie instead of Constance. But anyways, we'll call her Constance. So Constance was like the little local star of the area, and as the story goes, like they were they were all set to like send her. They were trying to get her to like go like beyond even Detroit because she was so good. So they were trying to like her. I guess like the sort of the route they were trying to get her to go was via like the women's doubles route for whatever reason. I don't know why, but the route they were trying to get her on was like the sort of doubles, women's doubles. And so, anyways, so the girl that she was partnered with, and I don't have her name, but the girls that she was partnered with was like they were trying to get her. So up to the same sort of par. She was like the next best player, I guess. But anyways, Esther was basically so she was just like, she was a so Esther was working at a tennis club in the Detroit area, and she was allowed to practice on the court when nobody was using it. So then that's
kind of the storyline for Caddyshack.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like it is kind of a Caddyshack thing, right? So convinced by her friends that she should enter a local tournament, the officials conspired to have her quickly eliminated by matching her against the previous year's champion. She won the match, but because it was raining, the officials demanded that the match should be replayed. The newspapers were tipped off on the story and showed up to watch Esther once again defeat the previous year's champion before going on to win the entire tournament.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they tried to game it and say,
oh, she only won because it was in the rain, and she came back and she, well, I'll stomp on her in a nice day.
And so she then, because she was just like that, she was like such a great player.
And this is Esther.
And so they're like, well, now we got the perfect girl to partner up with Constance O'Donovan.
Yeah.
And they sent them to and so they worked together. They ended up going on to the National Public Courts Championship. And what's interesting is that there's actually there's a website still, like the National like Women's like Public Courts Championship is kind of a big deal. I'm not
Mhm.
and this is full disclosure. I know virtually. I mean, I've watched a little bit of tennis in my life, but I've
Yeah.
not. I know very little about the inner mechanism, so this could be a big deal for it is a. I mean, I take it back. It is a big deal. It's listed. They have a whole list of the championships, and they are listed in the women's doubles court. If you look up women's double, or not just women's, but national public courts championships.
What is a public court?
Public court, like I believe it's outdoors, and it's like the public courts, like people can play at the public court, I guess. But it's a big deal. Like there's a list of every winner all the way back through the 30s, and they're there for 35 on the list. Her and Esther Politzer. And so it was so they so they went on. So they went to I believe it was New Orleans to win that, but they had to go through the entire U.S. Like there was a bunch of different locations before they actually got to that championship, and then they won that championship. So so I have the little quote here. So Detroit's tennis championship, won in a field in which Detroit has achieved little success, is borne by the flying rackets of two young women, Constance Donovan and Mrs. Esther Politzer, who won the National Public Courts women's doubles title in New Orleans last month. And they defeated a St. Louis pair, Mrs. Virginia Beyer Duker and Virginia Jacobson, in the finals. And so this is an article from the Detroit News on October 13th, 1935. So that means that in September, approximately September 13th, 1935, right approximately when the Tigers are about to win the pennant, they're headed to the World Series at this moment. They're in New Orleans winning this national.
So I'm sure they're not getting a crap ton of space in the paper.
That's it. I just read it to you.
Yeah.
I just read you the space.
Yeah.
But they were also recognized with this picture we have on the screen right here.
Yeah.
This incredible picture. These are both women are showed on the City of Champions newspaper.
Yeah.
And the picture of Constance Donovan in particular, when I've done all the shows I've done, this is one of the pictures that people just gravitate towards.
Really?
Because there's something about that picture, and I see why that people gravitate towards. If anybody, I'm not sure how great it looks on the screen right now, but but if you have a copy of the book, the newspaper's in the very first picture of the book, or if you find the picture, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's just something really special about she is just like a little picture of a cute little cute girl in the 1930s. She's got a ribbon in her hair that's just like it's like it. She's just like
that's Esther.
No, that's Constance Donovan is the one with the racket in her hand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this picture of Constance Donovan, I'm telling you, especially women really are gravitated because they all are like, look at how cute she is.
Yeah.
She's just got a little ribbon in her hair, and it's just like a ribbon that you would find on like a Christmas package.
So on the paper,
top right corner,
it's in the top right corner,
and Esther's below her.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right.
And so she's just like a little cute as a button girl, and she's just got a big old beaming smile. Yeah. She's got this ribbon in her hair. It gets a lot of attention.
Well,
she is a picture of a 1930s little, cute girl coming up through the world, and it's just got a beautiful kind of like, open air backdrop with some trees. I mean, it's just a great shot.
Yeah. And then women in sports and in society did not get the same respect as men, generally speaking. Here they are on that paper, being respected as
100%
as champions.
Yeah.
It's kind of progressive.
In Constance Donovan's picture is as large as any of the other pictures on the entire newspaper. I mean, it's not like some thumbnail.
Yeah.
If you go back, can you go back to that City Champions paper? I want to just compare it to some of the other sizes.
I will. Hang on a second.
I've always loved that picture as well. Usually it's women that, but if you look at her picture, her picture is as big as Garwood's bow, the Miss America 10.
Right.
It's as big as Joe Lewis in the bottom left-hand corner. If you kind of rotated it.
Yep.
It's just slightly smaller than the other three. In fact, she's got one of the top, 6 or 7 largest pictures on the entire newspaper.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, so they definitely
And
showed
she's
her.
not sharing it with 20 other people.
No,
you know, you got a team of, 15,
Yeah.
20, 30 guys.
Yeah, so they definitely
uh,
showed her respect, and it's got her holding a tennis racket,
Yeah.
and it's just I've always loved that photo, and
Mhm.
and whenever I have that original up, that image in particular does get quite, especially like I say, female interest, because they look at her and they just go, look at how cute she is. She's just like, she's just got this little, it's just like, it's almost like a shoelace in her hair. It's nothing
Right.
fancy. It's just it's a girl that's living in the Great Depression, and she's just thrilled to
Well, I
be.
mean, women only got the right to vote 15 years before that.
Yeah, okay.
It
Yeah.
was like, it seems like it's a very progressive thing, a very,
So
very
there's,
positively.
yeah, and so and
positive
honestly, the
thing.
biggest thing that I have in here for these
Mhm.
women, I've just got chocked full of photos. We've
Yeah.
got other photos if you want to flip to the
Right.
next couple. I didn't even put all the photos I have up on the slides, but I love
Mhm.
these ones because it shows them together.
Yeah.
There's a photo that says title bound, and it's got Constance O'Donovan and Esther Politzer. And this picture says champions of Detroit, Miss Politzer and Miss O'Donovan face the Los Angeles combination today in the finals of the National Public Parks tennis tournament in Pittsburgh. So they were bouncing all over the country before they got to the actual final championship in New Orleans. And then the other pictures got them walking together arm in arm. They're all smiling. And then there's another picture where they're sitting together drinking like a pop or something. Whatever. I'm not even sure. Let me see. I got a closer inspection here. They're
sipping on the, I think she's doing.
Oh no,
her
yeah, she's
lipstick.
doing her makeup. Looks like doing her lips. Yeah, because it actually says, it says, so she's doing her makeup or whatever. But anyways, it just shows them. Yeah, it's just I just love it because I love those pictures because they're kind of partnered up with each other. Arm in arm and that. But I've got a few other pictures. Just one is a great shot in the book where Esther Politzer's like she's jumping to hit a serve.
Yeah.
There's another one where Esther Politzer's returning a serve. They were the subject of some pretty good photography back then.
Right.
And so anyways, that's so we got women's doubles tennis. And so do you want to show the so this is one of the coolest things about the entire project was her daughter Jill sent me, this is like one of the holy grail of all of Champions Day. And this is again another first on the internet. Oh, actually, no, that's not true. I have this on my website. This is on my website. The Champions Day newspaper is so this is a webgram inviting Esther Politzer to the to the
her dog shared the photo.
Oh yeah, it was a shot.
Yeah.
She says like, "Hey, my grandmother or my mother always held on to this," and I'm like, "Yeah, I can see why."
Did she live at? Is that her address?
Yeah.
At she lived in the Boston Edison district.
Yeah. Yeah, West Boston.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So
there's
some dough.
Yeah.
A little cash.
Yeah.
So
just saying.
But the Western Union Telegram, it's dated.
I can't afford a house there now.
Well, yeah.
Back then, that was crazy.
That's so. So the Telegram is dated April 14th. So of course Champions Day was April 18th. So she had about 4 days notice to maybe she had heard about it prior because it seemed like maybe this was like the official invitation. But we have pictures of her at the party.
Yeah.
We showed it last week. We've got pictures of her at the party and Constance O'Donovan. She was there with her.
Right.
And
I'm
so
glad you had this.
So, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of cool. This is ultimate memorabilia. It connects, this is the invite.
Yeah.
And then there's also, we have her pictures at the party. So she obviously accepted the invitation.
Yeah.
So anyways, in case you can't read it, might be a little blurry or maybe you can't see it. You're listening. It's a Western Union Telegram. It says the address at the top. And as Jamie mentioned, it says West Boston. It's talking about Boston Edison neighborhood. But anyways, they, the Telegram says, Esther Chilove Politzer, you are cordially invited to be the guest of this city at a Champions Banquet Saturday night, April 18th at 7:00. Will you please call for your ticket at the Detroit Times Sports Department sometime Friday? Sincerely, hope you will be present. Ed Hayes of the Detroit Times.
I just love that.
It's amazing. So that's an original. That's the invitation for her to go to Champions Day. Like,
Sure, just wait with a big crunch of the cigar. Get a
Yeah.
telegram out to Esther.
Yeah.
Get her over here.
how much would the Western Union Telegram inviting Mickey Cochran or whatever to the
Yeah.
freaking Champions Day,
Oh, yeah,
man? Like,
yeah.
any of those would be amazing.
Yeah,
And I bet you anything if we had access to some of these people's collections,
yeah.
because all
They're
these different
Probably
teams,
stuffed in there. And
They
not
probably
even
are.
thinking, not even thinking
They-
about what they are.
exactly. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is there's got there. I'm just if we find any more of these, how awesome would that be? If somebody like
Yeah.
if one of the family members of any of these athletes, like, maybe look through their collections or whatever, their grandfather or whatever, and they find the Western Union Telegram,
Mhm.
how awesome would it be to get some more of these to show? I mean, they probably have the same verbiage, but man, it'd be cool to reunite some of those together and
Yeah.
show to show how. I mean, it's just that's the invitation.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of cool. I feel I've been very fortunate because some of this stuff has really found
The
me.
people that have shared things.
Yeah.
It's just been so cool.
Yeah, like finding the Champions Day newspaper had nothing to do with my efforts. Like I said, Joseph Doobie sent it to me. And then of course, Jill Politzer, she sent me, I had no idea. She sent that to me, like she emailed me and sent it. And it's just like, I'm fortunate. I'm lucky. We're lucky that these people are still that are just kind of in tune and they see something
And there's Esther at the Champions Day celebration. We got a photo of that up. And that comes out of this was out of the newspaper.
Yep.
Out of the Detroit Times, probably the day after or so.
Yeah, no, it came out. Yeah, it was the day after. And then
so she's in there with Dick Degner, Tom Haney, Kathleen Hughes, and
we're gonna
Esther's
get to Kathleen Hughes.
sipping her tea there.
Yeah,
it's just fun.
And I think we have the other one with Constance O'Donovan, don't we? Is she in there somewhere?
I don't know.
Well, she's in there. Maybe we didn't load it up. There's one with her in it.
Yeah.
Okay. If not, there's one with her in it in the book too.
So, but that was So again, the books are available through the City of Champions website and most fine local retailers.
Yeah, but it's just cool that some of this stuff, like it's
made its way into the story.
Yeah, dude, it's found its way back. It's found its way back to see it, and it's like once you realize how cool the story is, the fact that we've got some memorabilia from it, like that's the friggin' Western Union Telegram inviting her to the dinner. That is freaking awesome, man. It's just that's kind of why I like doing these shows like this. Where we're focusing on this one champion. This racket sports or whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of hyper analyzing it. Because it kind of, when I'm putting these books together, I mean, of course, I thought at the time how cool it was, but actually thinking about it now, actually like giving it some focused thought, I'm like, dude, that's freaking awesome that we have that.
So as you were going through the process of collecting the books, right? Because you started out with just the 2-page paper and getting information about the 3 championships, and then it exploded from there. Did you think you would find the materials on these other people? When did you go down the path of the other people? When did that door open for you? Beyond the 3.
Well, what it was when I was writing the first book was written as like a story of the season. I wrote it as like sort of an aerial view, as like an overall summary of the season itself, like the story.
But was the first book on really the big 3 and Joe Louis?
Yeah, and then it was like but the thing is, when I was working on the first book, I realized that there was all these other championships when I was working on that book.
Okay, at what point in your research did that come?
Well, the way that I work is I gather all the information first, right? And then I sort it all out, and I basically honestly, the book is almost written before I even start writing it. I mean, it's like I've got so much vast information ready to go. Most of the time I actually have to cut stuff out before I start writing because I've got so much information. And so,
but initially when you were doing the City of Champions book, were you just looking for the first 3, or did you have an inkling of?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When I started with the 2-page paper, I was working the first 3. I didn't even. In fact, the 2-page paper didn't even mention Joe Louis.
And then
the thesis the thesis was again focused on the 3 championships, and then Joe Louis worked his way. It was the thesis was basically the 3 championships and then Joe Louis sort of at the end.
So while you were working on your thesis, is that when you came across the rest of
No,
the
it was in the
champion
first
story?
book when I was working on the first book.
And so you're like, all right, I'm going to turn this thesis
Yeah.
into a book.
Yeah.
And then I really need to dig and get more
Exactly.
information. And you're like, holy crap.
That's when it opened up. Yeah.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
How far into that work from the thesis to the book, how far into it would you say that you came across the other champions?
It was
the Detroit Times, because was it something in the Detroit Times?
It was the Detroit Times 100%.
Was it that page in the Detroit Times, that champions page, or what was it?
Yeah, pretty much. I would say that. Yeah, I would think that was it. Yeah.
The catalyst for the rest.
I would think so. Yeah, because
the last 15 years of your life.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, and I write and I talk about it. There's an Our Detroit magazine, and I have the article on my website on the website. There's an Our Detroit article, and it was like I was just kind of talking to him, and it's kind of when it dawned on me, like here I give it a little thought. But it was like I was sitting there. See, I mean, basically, it was like the entire. It's hard to define like when exactly it was.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of like the more I looked, the more I found. The more I looked, the more I found, and the more I found, the more I looked. You know what I mean? It was like a sort of a cyclical thing that just snowballed into bigger and bigger projects. Yeah. And that's kind of how it was. Like because like it was like I said, like the first 2-page paper was literally just. It was just a paper about the fact that the 3 teams won.
Right.
And then the thesis is when it was like, well, hell, these are the first championships for each team. Like that was the revelation of the thesis. And Joe Louis was an afterthought in the thesis. It was basically like, oh, by the way, Joe Louis also was like a kind of a featured athlete from this time. Like he wasn't even really a featured thing. But the book itself, like after I wrote the thesis,
what was the title of the thesis?
It was just Detroit City of Champions.
Okay, so
I've still got it.
So working on just on the 3.
Mm-hmm.
You were calling it Detroit City of Champions.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I've got the cover somewhere. I've got the whole paper still.
Right.
But anyways, so yeah, so when I was like, because then I moved back to I moved to Scotland. I was dating a girl from Scotland at the time. I was playing American football over there. And I got a job over there. And so when I was over in Scotland, I was looking for I graduated from college and I was like trying to think about what I wanted to do. Like what's the next phase, And so, so I was over there. I was working as a laborer, like in construction and that. And I was playing American football. And then I had a couple of business ideas over there. And then, but one of them was but my thoughts were continuously coming back to the City of Champions story. Because I'd written the thesis already, and I'm so I started having books sent over from America, about Detroit history sent to Scotland. So I was like an international buyer living in Scotland, having Detroit books sent over. And the more I was reading a lot of general Detroit history.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot of there's a couple sports history books thrown in, but overall, there was still no mention of City of Champions or in anything. And it always sort of skipped over the whole thing. And it was I just remember one day I was sitting in the kitchen in Scotland and I was eating my breakfast. And I had this little art pad that I was always drawing stuff in.
Yeah.
And I just remember I was I still have the art sketchbook. In the sketchbook, I drew the cover of the book with the 3 newspapers.
Okay.
Where it's the Tigers win World Series, Lions win NFL championship, and Red Wings win Stanley Cup. I drew that cover, just the basic 3 newspapers in there.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, that would be the sickest cover for a book showing all 3 newspapers of all the 3 teams. And so I wrote that before I did anything. That was one of the genesis, because I was like, that would be the sweetest cover, having all 3 newspapers on the cover. And so that's when I really started thinking about doing a book. And so I was thinking, and so anyways, so I started making a plan. I'm like, well, how awesome would it be to start a publishing company based on this book, and I could start doing all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Publishing other people's books and then doing some other, because there's not really any big time publishing houses in Detroit except for Wayne State Press.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll be the only publishing house in Detroit, and Detroit's trying to make a comeback. There's a need for that. So that's when I really started thinking about it. And so anyways, really, it was always just a launch pad. I wanted to do something in Bronze Age history was my ultimate goal in my life, and still is. So I came back from Scotland basically like an immigrant. I had a couple $1,000s in my pocket and in a dream of starting a publishing company based around writing this City of Champions book. But when I wanted to write the book, it was basically almost like, again, I've said it before, it was like an archaeologist publishing his findings of a discovery.
Yeah.
You turn it over to the press, they do their job and tell the world.
Yeah.
And then I can move on to my next projects or whatever, right?
Yeah,
well, that's not how it happened at all.
No.
Of course.
And here we are.
And here we are.
95 episodes later.
But as far as the timing of it, there
story.
was a moment where, like, because what I was doing was I was living at my mom's house in Marysville over by, because like I said, I came back as like an immigrant. I had no money. And I was, in my entire, it was right in the middle of the last, the armpit of the last recession. I was like, say 2007, 2008. And I was like, I had no money. I had no job because I was putting all my time working on the book and going to the library. And so I was like, I'd get out to the Detroit Public Library, going through the microfilm.
That place is a museum in and of itself.
Yeah, big time. And so I was going there like every day. And then I was like, but there was a moment in time where, there was a moment in time where I was sitting there at the microfilm reels and I came across Champions Day. And I actually say in the book, it was the strangest feeling, because I described what it was like to discover Champions Day, because everything else that I'd found was like, fascinating. Wow, the Tigers, Lions, Red Wings. That's just something that kind of dawns on you. Once they won, they won. But that was all in plain sight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anybody could have sort of seen that. But when I came across Champions Day, like I came across the first thing I saw was the invitation to Champions Day, right? I was just going through the newspapers day by day. I was just going through them and reading the papers and seeing what there was. And so, I came across the invitation to Champions Day. Then I came across the proclamations, and I'm like, holy crap, they made an entire thing out of this.
Yeah.
Like, there was a holiday declared by the governor of Michigan City Council. You're talking about escalation when you're like talking about the story. And then I'm like, please God, let there be pictures of the actual event itself. And then I kept flipping through the papers a day or two later. Yeah. And then I was reading it like a fan, I was like a regular guy sitting at home reading the newspaper. And sure enough, when I came across the pictures of Champions Day, and there's pictures of the fans and I'm in the athletes and all this. And I was like, oh my God, dude, I'm looking at Champions Day. Yeah. But the thing with this, what I'm trying to get to with this story is it was, and I said this in Our Detroit, and I've said this in the book, it was a strange feeling, because it was like all of a sudden it wasn't like fun and games anymore. It was a strange thing, because now all of a sudden it was like this, it was almost like it was weird. It was like, it was excitement, but it was almost like profound fear, because it was like all of a sudden now it's like, I'm the only one in the world that knows about this. Yeah. I'm the only one knows about this. It's like, if through pushing this with these teams or whatever, this is like nobody else knows about this. If I don't bring this out, if this attempt is not successful, if I don't get this book, I mean, I hadn't published the book. I haven't even written the book yet. I hadn't even written the book. I was getting this first point. I had still to raise like $12,000 in the middle of a freaking to print, at a time when paper print books are vanishing. I had to raise $12,000 of my own money to print the books. I knew nothing about selling books. I knew nothing about printing or I knew nothing about the book industry. I knew nothing. And so I'm like, but it doesn't matter. Like this has got to get out. Right. I'm like, however it turns out, it's on me. Because if it doesn't get on me, what am I going to do? I mean, look at myself in the mirror the rest of my life and be like, you're the only one that knows about Champions Day, and it's just basically going to die with you, So that's what I'm saying. Like it was this sense of like, now it's not just like something that's kind of cool and fun, and I'm pursuing this interest. It was like a responsibility. Like I was like, this has got to get out. And if it doesn't, it's on me. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, so from that point till now, that feeling has kind of stuck with me, which is like, it's like whenever it's like, I feel like, man, this is brutal. I
love it. And I love that the story went so much deeper than just the Lions, the Red Wings, and the Tigers. And it brought us to the badminton champion, Walter Kramer, and these ladies, Constance and Esther. I just love that the story has led to so many other great stories.
Well, the thing about it was, when I was done with the first book, it took because there's so much information when you're talking about the 3 teams, Joe Louis and all these other athletes. They, in the first book, the athletes were basically limited to a couple of Detroit Times articles that I put in there because the thing about it was when I was done with the first book, it's the second, like I was just wrapping up the first book when I was like, this project is not over. Because I knew nothing about these. I didn't like all the people I wrote about in the first book. I didn't know who any of them were.
Right.
I knew nothing about the people or players or anything in the first book. I mean, they're all there. The players and all this that we're talking about were all in the first book. I just knew nothing. I mean, with the exception of the main guys like Hank Greenberg and Gehringer and them, I knew nothing about these people. And that's what triggered me to write the second and third books. I'm like, project is not done. The players are, besides, the events are of course massively important, but the players are as unknown as the story. And there's nothing out there on any of these people.
I got a little more on Walter.
Oh, cool. Hit me with it.
He was born in August 22nd in 1914 in St. Gallen, Switzerland. And he moved to Detroit in 1924 at the age of 10. So they lived in Detroit until 1948. So in the span when he was taking names and kicking butt and badminton, he was here in Detroit. In the final, 24-year-old Kramer, who was from Detroit Badminton Club, defeated Malaysian Ang Hock Sim and ensured that the first United States title remained on the American continent.
Nice.
Yep.
39. Those Asian countries are fantastic at like ping pong and I'm sure badminton and stuff.
Yep. So Kramer finished first,
representing, man.
First in men's doubles at the 1935 New England Badminton Championship with teammate Bryson of Ottawa.
Nice.
And then in 36, he was number 1 in the badminton player in the United States. And honored by the city of Detroit as part of the first Champions Day celebrating noted athletes from Detroit and Michigan. The banquet was held April 18, 1936. He won at the 1937 inaugural Open United States Championship, the title for men's singles. In 37, he won the inaugural.
Yeah, he's on the list for the first one ever.
Yep. So.
And then he back to back. He went in 38 as well.
In 38, yep. He built William Markham in the final in 38. So there you go. A little bit more about him. So from Switzerland, originally spent formative years here in Detroit and then moved on to Seattle after that. And then ultimately last residences were in California. So, yeah. But he was a Detroit boy there for a while.
Sure
while he was cashing in the championship.
Champ, of course he was.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's a little bit of the saga though for that. Because that's what I'm saying. Like
they're so scared. The information is so sparse.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like at the time when I was working on when I was done with the first book, like I wasn't done. That's the thing is I was like, it was like breathing a sigh of relief because the first book was out.
Yeah.
But then it was immediate. Like, okay, well now it's time to write something even. I knew the next project was going to be much, much larger than the first. And I was like, man, where do I, start with this? And I was like, you got to start by raising cash because I was broke. I dropped everything I had, borrowed money from everything I could borrow, and still like living in my mom's basement, so it's like, so I moved to Detroit. I was able to start selling books at the art shows and get out of my mom's, like I said, I moved back as like an immigrant.
Yeah,
moved to Detroit, and then it's just the rest is, I guess you could say, history. But I was collecting information for probably 3 or 4 years. Everywhere I'd looked on like eBay every single day. I was like, and then there was like there was like about a year and a half, 2 years where I was just literally just going to the library every single day, looking through every single newspaper I could find, going through it just day by day by day. My printing costs were like $20 a day.
Yeah.
And then I would go to do art shows on the weekends to finance the research.
Yeah.
And then it was just, like I say, after 3-4 years of accumulating, you look at it, and anybody that's a potential writer out there, a piece of advice I like to give people is kind of what I was doing at the time was, whenever you have an idea or whatever you have, you think about something that you want to, something like if you're thinking about writing a book or you're thinking about writing something, what really helped me was was just to take notes all the time. Like whenever you have an idea, even if it's just a random idea, to like write it into your notepad on your phone, write it on a scrap of paper. It doesn't matter. Write it somewhere. And then just the key is to accumulate. Is to constantly pile it up.
Yeah.
And then when you actually like sit down, when you're actually like, okay, I think I'm kind of ready to start writing this thing. What you do then is you just take out all your notes, all the notes you've written, and then you just like kind of like put them in order.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you look at it, you're like, holy crap, I got almost an entire book written out here in notes. And then you just like, and you're like, well, what connects all these different notes? Then you start thinking about what you need, what kind of information you need to put the thoughts together and to connect it. And that was really helpful for me. It really helps to eliminate like a writer's block. So you're not like just sitting there looking at a blank screen, like, okay, page 1, chapter 1, Joe Louis was a great player. He was a really, really great player. No, like a great, really, really great.
No,
seriously, like amazingly great. Like you actually have like, basically like you have chapters written before you even sit down. That was really helpful for me. So, but anyways, yeah. So it's just like I say, it's just nice sitting here, like focus on each, like player, each championship like this. Cause, I look at these girls and they're just, every picture, they are just thrilled, man. They're so happy to be playing tennis. They're so happy to be partners with each other. They are like, say, Constance O'Donovan, that picture is one of my favorite pictures on the newspaper because she's just a little cutie and she is just so happy to be. I mean, and it's not just that either. It's almost an epic picture.
Yeah.
Because here, you can take a look for yourself. Like, I mean, can you see it on this screen there?
Oh yeah.
It really is like it's like this epic picture, man. She's just it's just a great shot. It's just a great shot.
Worth it to go pick up the books. So if you head over to DetroitTheCityOfChampions.com, you can find the way to get the books there.
And my thanks to again to Esther Politzer's daughter Jill, because that telegram was amazing. And she also, I thought some of these other photos I'm looking at, she sent me a lot of these photos too. So my thanks to her.
Yeah,
for sending me these.
It takes a village to raise a book like that.
It does, actually.
All right. So wearingfunny.com, a place to get some cool Detroit City of Champions.
Well, I want to finish up real quick with one thing. I don't mean to interrupt you.
No,
but
I was rapping.
I'm going to end it on the same notes we've ended some of the, basically every other championship, where we say like, where we go down the domino list and say like, okay, let's say you find something that can match up with Tigers, Lions,
everything that's come prior.
Yeah.
Now, who are you going to match up against these three?
Exactly. Like you go all the way down the list. You got the 3-team championships. You get a minor league championship to match the Olympics. You got a boxer to match Joe Louis. You got a speedboat racer to match Garwood. You got a sprinter. You got a golfer to go against Walter Hagen. Yeah. You got yourself a sprinter to beat Eddie Tolan. You got yourself a diver to go against Dick Degener. You got a weight thrower that can throw caber toss or whatever against help me out here, Jamie, against Clark Haskins.
Yeah.
You got a shooting team that can match up shot for shot with the Detroit Police pistol shooting individuals and championship. You got and now who are you going to put against our badminton champion Walter Kramer?
Right.
Who are you going to put against our women's doubles tennis champ? You got a couple of women that can beat Esther Politzer and Constance O'Donovan at women's doubles tennis.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, I don't think so either. So it just furthers the case for the idea that this is the greatest season that ever happened. In the greatest season that ever will happen.
It's inconceivable.
Thank you. You took the words right out of my mouth.
I don't think that word means what you think it is.
I don't think, but in this case, I think it means exactly what you think it means.
Absolutely.
So I just love the domino thing because it's like people are like, hey, Detroit, like I say, I was talking to that Boston Globe reporter when they were saying, oh, Boston almost won the Bruins. It was the Patriots that won the Super Bowl. The Red Sox had won the World Series, and the Bruins were in the 7th game of the Stanley Cup Finals versus the
But you've just got started
against the Blues, but in the
and you didn't even make it.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like
you
he was asking
make it to
me,
the Big Three.
But he was asking me, he's like, what's your? I wanted a quote from you about what happens if they do this, and I'm like, yeah, but that's 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 great. Congratulations, but
They got water. Where's their boat guy?
yeah, where's your boat? Where's your boxer and all
there's
this?
there's close to Cuba. They got all kinds of fighters down
Yeah.
there, man. Boxing was huge. Boxing's huge in
But
Florida.
that's what I'm saying is like,
where's your boxer?
And the thing, and that's the reason I've been liking to kind of lay this out like in this, to go down the list like this and say matching up. It's not just sort of a bragging rights. It's to show like just how great this season was. And even if a city is even to match up champion for champion all the way down the list like this, even if a city is even able to match up with this, the time in which it took place, the middle of the Great Depression, took place at a time where these people needed excitement like this the most.
Yep.
And also like the impacts of a season like this having happened, I actually have a quote in here from Bud Shaver and them that say, this changed everything for Detroit. It said before 1935, everybody was just focusing on their misery. Like everybody was like, oh, how much worse is it going to get? Now everybody cares about who's going to win the next championship or who's going to win the next cup or whatever. And so it literally created Detroit sports. Like, so the impact of all this stuff having happened was monumental as well. So that's what I'm saying. Like that's why it's kind of worth making that sort of domino like case every week, because
Chris said by the time we get to the end of this, it'll take the whole show just to run down the list.
It's like that whole,
it probably
12
will,
days of Christmas. Yeah. 12 days of Christmas. That's a great point, Chris.
All right. So there we go. Wearingfunny.com for your City of Champions gear, and you get more gear and the books at cityofchampions.com itself. And then we're going to do more. There's a lot more. There's a lot more of the story to come. So stick with us. It's Detroit City of Champions, the podcast.